Baltic farmers are on their way to Brussels to protest against the current status of EU farm subsidies. They hope to arrive in Brussels by November 22nd, when EU leaders will debate the next 7-year budget for the European Union. There's pressure from creditor countries to reduce EU spending in light of national budget cuts. The current crisis is putting to test the capacity of Western Europe to economically support the East and ensure general cohesion. Around 80% of the European Union budget is currently made up of subsidies and funds for poorer EU countries. The Common Agricultural Policy, or so-called CAP, includes the agricultural subsidy program and accounts for around 40% of the budget. Farmers in Western Europe are the largest recipients of these funds. For countries that joined the EU after 2004, subsidies are gradually being phased in. Currently, they receive lower subsidies per acre compared to farmers in the West. The Europeans have long been trying to reform the CAP, and the issue will be an important topic during the next multi-year budget negotiations. In a number of Western countries, especially France, who is the largest European agricultural exporter, farmers carry political weight, and therefore governments are hesitant to cut subsidies. For the EU as a whole, the agricultural sector only accounts for around 1.7% of GDP and 5% of employment. However, for Eastern European countries, agriculture still accounts for a higher percentage of total employment and value added. Farmers from Eastern Europe are calling for more balanced farm subsidies between East and West and oppose cuts to the CAP as is currently being debated. However, more important than CAP are the structural and cohesion funds for Eastern Europe. These funds account for around 35% of the EU budget. While the majority of the CAP goes to Western farmers, the structural and cohesion funds mostly go to Eastern Europe to upgrade infrastructure and create links to Western Europe. These funds often account for several percentage points of GDP in Eastern European countries. Considering the pressure on governments to cut budgets, it is unlikely EU funding will increase by the amount the poorer members hope for. Due to hardened national positions, the likelihood that EU leaders achieve a compromise on the next EU budget when they meet November 22nd is slim. Lengthy negotiations on a budget are not unusual. A deal will likely only be reached sometime next year. The ongoing budget negotiations put to question the willingness and capacity by Western Europe to subsidize development in the East. Currently, most of the EU's wealthy countries are trying above all to stabilize the Eurozone. Rising unemployment and economic hardship are leading to discontent, as recent protests in Southern Europe showed. It is likely that Eastern Europe will be increasingly competing for the limited EU funds with Southern European countries. So far, Europe's periphery still gravitates towards the West. However, in the longer run, a decrease in Western Europe's economic power and funding capacity leads to the question of whom Eastern European countries could turn to. Europe's northeastern and southeastern periphery would likely be first attracted by the economic weight of Russia and Turkey. Countries that have tried to distance themselves from these two powers in the past could therefore face a dilemma when bridging commercial and political interests.